I want to start with your quarterback, one of the leaders of this team, Jared Goff. You've had such a unique point of view of his career, dating back to being in LA with him, now in Detroit. When he grew this season, why did the rest of the team grow with him?
Well, he's the quarterback, and with at that position, it comes a lot of responsibility and heavy burden and heavy load on your shoulders, and he understands that. That's the cool thing about Jared is we'll have talks and he'll be like, I understand as a quarterback this happened. I understand as a quarterback. So he gets that, but we're just proud of how the way he responded from having, I always say, not having a tough year, but being in a tough situation. And him, like I've always said, we had to hold our end of the bargain in terms of putting him in the right position, and he held his end of the bargain and performed well. It was cool to see.
A couple of other foundational pieces, like offensive lineman Penei Sewell, receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, they thanked you this past week for bringing them here to Detroit. What is your response to them?
Hey, that means a lot. Those guys, you go through a lot. Sometimes we get emotional with this, but you go through a lot in the process, the pre-draft process, and acquiring those guys. And it's certain guys that stand out in the process. So like Penei Sewell, I remember we did so much work on him, and then finally, me and Dan had a Zoom meeting with him. It was like right before the draft, and I'd never forget, like, it was something about him. It was something about him and just the way that he carried himself and the way that he spoke about his background and his family, and just it was something about him that was like, me and Dan were like, this kid's the guy. Same with Amon-Ra. We knew wide receiver was the one we wanted to address, and we kept looking at him. We kept saying, we're going to get this kid. We're going to get this kid. We kept saying that night after night. So to hear those guys say that, it's really cool.
Your rookies led in sacks, TFLs, fumbles, and interceptions. What impressed you the most about that rookie class? I love all of them. Like, I really do. I mean, there's not one that, it's like I'm weighing one or the other. I mean, I'm just proud of how all of them just stepped up to the challenge and competed. It's hard enough as a rookie. I mean, it's a different speed of the game. It's a different level of information that you have to process. And you're always like, I guess in the GM position when rookies, you kind of get that proud dad moment. And I think this is kind of what it is. Was there a moment you were watching during a game where the proud dad really came out?
I will say the biggest proud dad moment, and again, I had many, like, watching Kirby Joseph get that interception, like just and always envisioning like him being a ball hawk guy, But just his first one, like it was really cool, and it's just like that was like wow. But James Houston, I will say James Houston sack in the Buffalo game, that was probably the most eruption that came out of me, just because of knowing everything that we thought about him, knowing his journey, knowing that, man, like he needed a lot of work, and he did put the work in, but we had to make the tough decision to put him on practice squad, and we tried to get, just so much went into it, and then him going out there and trotting out there and getting that sack, I just erupted. I just couldn't control myself, and it was cool to see.
That Bills game for James Houston was week 12. He'd end the season with 12 total tackles and 8 sacks. Were you in the background nudging this coaching staff a little bit? Hey, let's get him in a third down package sometime?
Yeah, Dan and I wanted to get him up quicker than he did, and we couldn't find that right sweet spot. Like we wanted to get him up, but then around that same time, we were hit pretty bad with injuries, and so we had to bring up a lot of other guys from the practice squad, and we just couldn't quite get him up. So, but we didn't have any doubt that he could help. It just we couldn't find that sweet spot. But when we did, it was cool to see, and it was cool that it was on primetime TV and the world to see it. We just had to scramble her and sign him to the active roster before someone else tried to get him. But otherwise than that, though, I was happy for him.
Where in your pre-draft scouting report
did it have Aiden Hutchinson racking up 3 interceptions in his first year?
You know, I would say I didn't nowhere in the scouting report that I would say the interceptions. I will say this though, I've said it before, like that Michigan Pro Day, he did one pass drop drill and it was just like, wow. He showed a lot on that Pro Day, just being up close to him and being live and just the athleticism that he showed throughout the whole day. I think a lot of us left away like, wow. But that pass drop drill and then you see the interceptions, you know, you're just like, all right, well, he showed that. Didn't know that he was going to get the interceptions, but he's just such an instinctive football player. He really is. I mean, he's got elite instincts and he can just see things. He just can see things kind of before they happen sometimes. And I think even just allowing him to stand up a little bit more, you know, at one point in the season, I think he was just able to see things a little bit better. And that was a big difference of his career at Michigan. You know, the year before he got the injury, you know, he was pretty much down as interior defensive lineman all the time. And then they stood him up on the edge that last year, and then he just had a whole new tools in his toolbox that showed, and it was cool to see. And so I think all of that work that you put in and what you project in the vision, it was cool to see that happen.
From 3 wins to 9 wins, that's an incredible turnaround. What is the next step for this team?
You know, look, I just think the next step is, man, we have to be a playoff team. You know, that's just what it is. I think we're right on the cusp this year, and you know, obviously we had to rely on some help, but you know, look, I told Dan and I told Rod, look, you know, next year, you know, we got to be in position that we're not relying on others for help, and we just got to take care of our business on the front end and make that next step and just be a true playoff team, and that's what we expect. That's the standard that we hope in. I think we're right on the right path. I really do. I think we're making the necessary jumps. Again, wish it was playoffs this year, but yeah, the next improvement is, let's be a playoff team.
I know just saying the word draft makes you light up. I know how fired you are for those 4 draft picks in the first 2 rounds. What kind of splash can the Detroit Lions make in Kansas City this year?
You know, it's very exciting to have the capital that we have available to us. You just never know. When we made the Stafford trade, you know, I kind of had an idea, you know, like obviously excited to have 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years, but kind of had an idea that, you know, well, their pick's probably going to be a little bit later because they're a really good team, and I knew that coming in. They added, you know, Matt Stafford, but, you know, this year just to have a top 10 pick and then, you know, our pick being at 18, I believe it is, it's really exciting. And especially being in the position that we take every approach about, look, we're just going to take the best football player for us. And, you know, we don't anchor ourselves on, you know, well, we got to do this and we got to do this. Like, you know, who's the best guy that fits our organization? And it's really exciting to have that premium of capital and take that approach, and that's what we'll do.